Hello, this is Karen Johnson with another edition of the Schenectady Proctors Historical Society history tapings. The date today is Monday, August 29th, 2016, and we're very pleased to have with us today Michael Saccocio, who's the Executive Director of the City Mission of Schenectady. And Mike, you actually, people may not realize it, but you have a very interesting relationship and role with Proctors. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how, when Proctors was expanding, you and Philip decided that you had to think about our downtown populations a little more.
You know, it's a great relationship, Karen, and first of all, we're neighbors. We're really across the street from each other, so we share a neighborhood. And when Proctors was revitalizing and doing all this construction, Philip reached across the street to City Mission. And he invited us to come to the Proctors table and say, look, what we're trying to do is build here a theater for the whole community. We're looking to build something that engages every aspect of our community. It's not supposed to be a nice thing for one segment. And we were overwhelmed by that invitation. And with Philip, you know the sincerity of what he's saying. So his invitation not only got us to the table, but got us to be open and creative once we got there.
And what happened?
Well, the big breakthrough was the Ambassadors Program.
Okay.
Because it really began, what we started with was what was still lacking. Obviously, Proctors was doing these historic things with the facility, with shows coming to town. But we began a discussion, what do we still lack? And what came up was we don't have people out on the sidewalks, really providing a hospitable environment from the moment people get out of their car. I remember Philip saying, a lot of shows, it's dark. It's cold. There's a big garage. People haven't been to downtown Schenectady. We don't want them just meandering into the theater. We want to greet them early. We want them to know we're excited that they're in town and get their afternoon off to a great start. And that's really what precipitated the Ambassadors Program.
So how did you invent it in detail? What training, what thinking, how did you explain it to people, and how did you get buy-in from the folks from the mission?
That's a great question. Philip just really said, can you make people feel welcome? So we said, okay, and we agreed that we would do a 3-month pilot. So it was going to be October, November, and December. And we really said, for 3 months, Philip, we really don't know what we're doing. We came up with the name Ambassadors. We got red coats and flashlights. And we said, okay, we'll go out there. It'll be a combination of City Mission residents and staff, and we'll just go out there and welcome people. There was a core of our residents that loved the idea and really felt honored that they were being invited to be a partner with Proctors. You know, really from our perspective across the street, to have Proctors saying, would you be on our team, it's quite a compliment. And a lot of our men and women rallied to that. So we just went out there that first night. We knew we had to be kind. We knew we had to be welcoming. And the services really evolved over time. One thing that became natural was opening doors for people. That was just a nice thing to do. It was a way to show respect for our guests. When it rained, we said umbrellas would be a good idea. Let's get umbrellas. The crosswalk became an obvious place where we could help them get across. And then it just continued to evolve in terms of pointing people to restaurants and parking areas. And that's really, I think, what's so fun about the Ambassadors Program is its evolutionary aspect, and it's really our ambassadors themselves who drive its improvements.
So it seems to me I saw you out there one night with a red jacket and a flashlight.
I love it. I'm being selfish when I get to be an ambassador. And couple reasons for that. One is I get to be side by side with the men and women of City Mission. And what I love about that is when I become an ambassador, I work for them. Across the street, I am in charge. That's appropriate. That's the way the mission is structured. But all we have to do is cross Clinton Street, and they're the experts. They're the one with the experience, and I report for duty to them. And I think it's a healthy thing within the mission to realize that these hierarchies are kind of just based on certain skill sets, and what exists in one place isn't true in another place. So I love reporting for duty and learning from them. Secondly, if you're ever feeling down, become an ambassador for a shift. Because as you're greeting people, they're smiling back and they're saying thank you. they're saying, thank you for doing this. And if it's a really cold night, people are saying, I can't believe you're out here. Wow, you must be cold. Thanks for doing this. And really, in the course of an evening at Ambassadors, you're having hundreds, if not a couple thousand people smile at you and say thank you. That's good for anybody's morale.
So in the very beginning, did we just do this? We just decided to do it.
Just decided to do it. I said, Philip, it was kind of a big reach for us, right? I mean, to go outside, the weather was getting cold. I said, we'll do it for 3 months. It was simply a pilot. After the 3 months, it really became evident to leaders like Philip, Mayor Stratton at that point, Metroplex. Those were really the 3 entities that said, this is a good thing. They said back to City Mission, if we can come up with a funding mechanism, because the first 3 months we just did it as volunteers. If we can establish a funding mechanism, would you continue doing it? And we were thrilled, a little overwhelmed, but we said we'll sign up for that, and we've been doing it ever since. That was about 8 years ago.
8 years, wow, how time flies.
It really does.
It's amazing. Yes. And now it's kind of an employment program, a structured employment program. How does that work?
It is. It's a great transitional employment program. The men and women of City Mission as ambassadors has grown because not only do we work for Proctors now, but we cover the entire downtown area. So we have a contract with Metroplex as well as with Proctors. So this requires more and more ambassadors because we're covering more turf and more time beyond main stage shows at Proctors. So we've actually grown such a number. We have about 12 ambassadors at any given time. These men and women start, they get training to become good at being ambassadors. They get continuous training. Just a few weeks ago, we brought in a hospitality expert. She did 4 sessions of hospitality training because we know not only will that give our folks a better skill set as an ambassador, but there's a lot of businesses, particularly in Schenectady right now, that are hospitality based. So this is a great stepping stone to a number of careers beyond being an ambassador. Another thing I'm excited about is we reached out to other agencies like Community Fathers, like the Seat Center in Schenectady, and said, do you have good candidates to be ambassadors? So it's not simply City Mission graduates anymore. It's a really nice, diverse mix from across the community.
And is it managed by ambassadors that have had a lot of experience?
Yes, it's overseen by the mission. So our administrative people are really handling the issues like payroll and human resources. But we have a position called lead ambassador. And this is really men and women who have come through, who have kind of perfected the craft, and they are running this program. They are putting the schedules together. They are doing measurements on how well we're doing. They're surveying our work, and they are regularly producing ideas. Just this morning, I got an email. One of our ambassadors did a research project on similar programs across the country, gave us 8 recommendations on things we could do in a developing Schenectady to offer even more resources to our downtown community. So what is exciting about that is not simply the opportunity to innovate, but the fact that the ambassadors are driving the improvement.
You know, one of the things that has struck me, because Proctors also hires people from the City Mission to work, well, starting out a lot in our custodial staff, but as they stay, they're different responsibilities they take. But people make so many assumptions about what a person who's been homeless is like. And some of them are just extremely intelligent, extremely experienced in business. They just had a little turn of bad luck.
Right.
And to be able to kind of start coming back and feeling like you're part of the culture, it must make you very happy.
It's
and them.
the greatest joy for me to watch it. For them, it's transformative. And you've said something so profound. Let's face it, in all of our lives, it's easy to stereotype a group of people, to have a little piece of information and think it applies to everybody. One of the things that makes City Mission exciting is the diversity of the people who come. Some might fit that stereotype, but others have master's degrees, have had successful careers, have families, and a very different type background. The mission wants to be a place for all of them, but they all have different skill sets to bring back into the community when they leave. We have found Proctors to be one of our favorite places for our graduates to go and work, and I think there's a couple reasons for that. Proctors has a good culture. It's a team culture. And Proctors is just an exciting place. I mean,
Yes.
I try to cut through the arcade even when it's nice because there's just an energy there. It's fun to be around. As someone who used to play sports, it's like being at a ball game if there's a show going on. But even in quiet moments, there's always things simmering at Proctors. So when our folks come across the street to work here, they may be doing custodial work, but they know they're part of something much bigger. They're part of something that has a regional and even national reputation and presence. So we've seen very good results with these placements, and we love the partnership.
And the people that don't want to be here
Right.
aren't here. I mean,
Works
they
out
might
good.
have a chance, but
Yes.
they didn't like it, and
Right.
so we move on. And so we have some wonderful success stories, and
Yes.
some people who just, it wasn't the right thing, the right fit.
Right. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I think we've learned in our own careers one of the keys to success is learning from failures. And you can't have these wonderful victory stories if we're not willing to also try it when it doesn't work. But hopefully even when it doesn't work, we're learning more. What is the right fit? What is the right personality? So Proctors is a great partner because Proctors is always wired to innovate, to learn, to try new things. And you can't ask for more in a partner than what Proctors offers us.
Well, speaking of innovation, let's talk a little bit about the mission and some of the innovation you've undertaken. I'm thinking about Schenectady Bridges and the
Yes.
leadership you've provided for that. Talk a little bit about that.
Schenectady Bridges is a great collaboration across the community, and it's based on a curriculum called Bridges Out of Poverty, which is really a wonderful study about what is the reality of generational poverty. And it looks at it in two different ways. First of all, for folks who work with folks in poverty, often coming from more middle-class backgrounds, and often misinterpreting things that are happening, but it also includes something called getting ahead in a just getting by world that allows folks in poverty to get a better understanding not only of what they're thinking, but what are the hidden rules of the workplace? What is different about middle class rules and the rules of wealth, and realizing it's not necessarily a good or bad, there's just differences. And if you want to succeed in any new thing, you kind of need to learn the rules of how it operates. So that curriculum drew a wonderful collaboration across the community that began in the social sector and built up to about 40 or 50 agencies with pivotal funding from the Schenectady Foundation that really got Schenectady Bridges airborne. But now, Karen, I'm excited to say all sectors are involved in Schenectady Bridges. So it's not just the social sector, it's the business sector, it's local government, it is education, it's healthcare, it's the faith-based community. So what really makes it dynamic is we're not simply working better with each other in our silos, we're stretching across those silos and getting the synergy that comes when different sectors discover their win-win and pull together.
I think that one of the most remarkable things I'm observing about Schenectady, and Assemblyman Phil Steck puts it this way, he says over in Albany they have a problem and they're waiting for the state to figure out how to give them enough money to solve it.
Right.
In Schenectady, you never thought you'd get the money, so you
That's
just
great.
went ahead
That's a great line.
and you tried to solve
Right.
the problem. And he
Yes.
says, I really love sort of the scrappiness, the willingness to try to solve your own problems. And this Schenectady Bridges, by bringing together 40 agencies, and you think about it, that's 40 agencies that are now talking to
Yes.
each other.
Right. Talking to each other, us figuring out how do we make sure we don't overlap what we're doing, how do we collaborate, how do we each bring our strengths to the table and bring our weaknesses to the table. That when you build trust in a collaboration, you realize I don't have to hide what I'm not good at. I can actually bring it on the table and say, is somebody good at this? And work with somebody who has a different strength. So I love what Assemblyman Steck said. It makes me proud to be a part of what's happening in Schenectady. But I think as other people from the community, other communities tell me, Schenectady has an inordinately large level of collaboration. I think that's because there's a lot of trust in Schenectady. And trust isn't something handed out to people, it's been earned. I think looking back, even something like the Hurricane Irene that caused such devastation in our community forced people to work together, forced people to collaborate. And as much as we wish that Irene never happened, what it did do was got us to be literally in a storm together and realize I can count on that person. I can count on that agency. If we could successfully rebuild a community, let's move on to other things, because with trust as a foundation, innovation really blossoms.
And it's interesting that Schenectady Foundation is right on board.
Always.
And they're supporting financially many of the initiatives that the community has brought together. And
Yeah, there is no Schenectady
we're in a really
bridges.
good time right now.
We are. I can never say enough good things about Bob Careau and the Schenectady Foundation. There is no Schenectady Bridges story without the Schenectady Foundation. And they're a unique foundation. Not only are they philanthropic and generous, but they roll up their sleeves. And one thing I think they do that helps make Schenectady unique, they regularly convene a community table. They are very good at bringing diverse elements to a table and saying, work together, folks. We'll back it up, we'll invest in it, but come together and make something special happen.
Now you have another program called Schenectady Works
Yes.
that kind of came out of all of this.
It did, yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's just celebrating the fact that, you know, work is a gift for people. Schenectady has a growing economy. There's jobs out there. And what Schenectady Works was really premised on is we have this wonderful potential win-win in our community. As I was spending time in the community, obviously I'm coming across a lot of people that need jobs, that need careers. But I was also coming across a lot of businesses that say I need employees, or I need to help people stay on the job to get better retention rates. So when you hear those two things, you say that's worthy of a program. So Schenectady Works is really designed to bring business together with folks who need work and maybe don't have strong work histories or have life issues that make retention a challenge, and figure how can the social sector enter this picture, help businesses be more profitable, help people do better in the workplace, because if we can make those two things happen, everybody's going to win in the community. So we've started a couple really exciting programs. One of them is called the Employer Resource Network. And what that is working with businesses to get better retention rates for their employees, helping people not only get a job, but keep that job through life struggles and actually build it into a career.
Now, do you have any examples of businesses that have been using this program that are just thrilled about the
We do.
results?
I will tell you, the program started in February of 2014. We had one success coach and 5 businesses. And what happens is the businesses buy shares of the success coach. Okay, and that's what pays for the success coach. So February 2014, one success coach, 5 business. Today we have 5 full-time success coaches and 30 businesses that are in the network. We have spread, we not only have a Schenectady Employer Resource Network, we have a Capital Region one, and we've even started one in Glens Falls area, because HR people are spreading word to their colleagues that this works. One example, a local business said not only have retention rates gone up, but morale has gone up. Our employees are realizing, as we help them solve life issues that maybe aren't taking place at the workplace, that we care about them. People were discovering you care more. You don't simply care about how much I can produce for you. You care about my child. You care about my parents. You care about struggles I'm facing away from work. And they said that has not only dramatically improved their retention rate. I'll give you an example of what a success coach can do. There was a woman who was a particularly valued employee. She had a son who had some pretty severe developmental disabilities. And she announced she was going to have to quit work to stay home with him. Well, the employer understood that, was sad to see her go, but said, before you quit, talk with the success coach. Long story short, the success coach plugged this woman, connected this woman to Schenectady ARC. She didn't know this organization existed. Her son was able to get a first-rate program during the day, much better than she could provide. She didn't have to quit work. So she suddenly realizes, my son's in a better place than even if I stayed home all day. I can still work and provide for the family. That's just one of those cases where what would have been a sad resignation actually became a win across the board, and really the type of thing that builds a stronger community. You can't expect a supervisor to know what's out there. You can't expect a person in crisis to know, but a success coach is paid to know, and it can make a big difference.
I know the best dry cleaner group
Yes, wonderful partners.
made a public discussion at one of the conferences I
Yes.
attended, and they were talking about how, people getting to work.
Right.
The child is sick, what do I do? I don't have anyone to stay with the child. My car broke down, what do I do?
Right.
And these are all things that happen to people, and if they can be given that opportunity to solve that problem, it makes a big difference in their ability to be employed.
It's a perfect summary. People really want to work. They want to work, but in all of our lives, barriers come up and they threaten us going to work. The way most of us remove those barriers is we dip into our resources. It could be as something that my car insurance gives me a loaner, right? I have AAA. I have extended family in the area. I can borrow their car, or a parent can come and watch the kids. There's a lot of folks in our community that have the strong work ethic but don't have those resources. Mm-hmm. So something as simple as a car breaking down threatens their employment because they can't call a parent. They don't have AAA. They don't have an extended insurance coverage. The Employer Resource Network exists to say we're not going to let that keep someone from the dream of a career. Let's go solve that problem. The whole community is going to be well served if we can figure out how to remove that barrier for them so they can stay on work. I think that's what good communities do.
Well, so to bring this a full
Yes.
circle back to Proctors, Proctors is one of the people that hires the success coach.
Yes.
And we have a vast variety of employees as far as background, pay level, et cetera.
Right.
And the person is known to everybody, comes,
Right.
he has a little suitcase he trails behind him. I have no idea what's in it, but
But he comes right into the workplace,
he
right?
comes
Building
right in.
relationships.
He walks through. He
Yes.
says hello to everybody.
Right.
We've all been told why he's there.
Yes.
So if a person was having some kind of a problem, that would be a neutral,
Yeah.
effective neutral to basically.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Even though a lot of times it's folks who are under-resourced to access, it's not limited to that. I had one major employer in this area tell me that a vice president was helped by the success coach, and it involved elder care. It was a case where a parent got sick. This very successful person really didn't know where to turn. Mm-hmm. The success coach made the connections to the resources in our community for elder care, solve the problem. So one of the great things for the success coach is it's not just limited to a certain income level. It's available for any employee because you know what? We all need a coach, and we all hit moments in our life where we need help outside of what we already know.
You can say that is certainly true. Mike, is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to talk about?
You asked some great questions. Thank you. I think what I would most want to say for the folks listening is how much we love Proctors and how honored we are to have Proctors as a partner. And really from the depth of my heart that at a time when Proctors was growing, it would have been very easy for Proctors to push aside a place like City Mission or to exert its weight in the community and say, we really don't want a place like City Mission that close by. Not only did Proctors not do that, they did just the opposite. They said, we want you as a neighbor. We want to create opportunities for you to be a part of this story. We want you to be a stakeholder. We don't want you on the outside looking in. Come in and make things better. Hopefully we've done that a little bit, but we're just very grateful that our neighbors is Proctors.
Well, and I think the people who come to Proctors are very grateful to see all the folks in the red jackets welcoming them. And hopefully we can continue that, and it's a plus for everybody.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank Michael Saccocio, Executive Director of the Schenectady City Mission. This has been another taping of the Proctors History Committee historical filming collection, and we have explored one of our neighbors, the City Mission of Schenectady today. And I want to thank all of you for watching and tell you that we have all kinds of opportunity to interview people with historical relationships or even current relationships to Proctors. And so if you would be interested in being interviewed, please feel free to be in touch with us. Thank you so much for watching.